Autumn, I'm so glad you're here with me today, and we're going to introduce you to my tribe. Now, forgive me, everyone. I'm going to glance at my notes so I get everything correct about Autumn. She is in Boulder, Colorado. We actually had the opportunity to meet many years ago, and she has a really interesting story. She's a professional dancer and has been a celebrity fitness trainer traveling the world. But she had some of her own health challenges, despite being this wonderfully fit dancer. And I'll let Autumn tell us her healing story. But what's also remarkable is that Autumn took her personal transformation and made a pivot from her dancing and professional fitness trainer world into the world that she's now in, having embraced paleo and just how healing those principles can be. So Autumn and I share this tremendous passion. Now, we're going to hand off to Autumn here in just a minute. She is a certified eating psychology coach, a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and she lives with her husband and her son Maverick. I'm so appreciated that you're a mom.
Yeah.
But I also want to remind everyone that the statements made in this conversation with Autumn and I have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. And these products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. They are education to help you make a better decision that we'll want you to discuss, of course, with your personal practitioner as well. So, welcome, Autumn, and tell my tribe all about your amazing healing journey.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor. We're such fans of your work. You were one of the major inspirations for me to make this pivot. And so really glad to be here. But yeah, like you said, I was always fit. I grew up a ballerina. I was trained by some principals from the Bolshoi Ballet of Russia, and then decided I wanted to make that my career. And though I was always fit, and I learned some really bad habits as a ballerina that you just had to count calories and it didn't matter. The quality of your food didn't matter. As long as you weren't eating too much, you were going to be fine. That kind of led to digestive issues, irritable bowel syndrome as I became a teenager, that no doctor at that point in time who I met was really able to help me fix at all. And we now know there's that really intricate gut brain axis. And so when my digestive issues weren't fixed, they kind of snowballed and started to manifest in anxiety and depression, eating disorder. I really struggled a lot in high school, and I tried the pharmaceutical route, and it
Now,
didn't really.
Autumn, you glassed over pretty quickly anxiety, depression, eating disorder. Could you tell us just a little bit more about that? Because that is so common in our young people today.
Yes, it was so, yeah, like I said, it started as just stomach issues. Basically, I would wake up in the middle of the night and I had excruciating pain. And then after I learned that really nothing can be done about that, and then my life was going to be unpredictable, I wasn't always going to be able to just enjoy social engagements, and my skin would break out. So I developed a lot of anxiety about, no having no control. I felt I had no control. And then when my skin got really bad, I started to get depressed, and I was all of these things as a young dancer, and an eating disorder. I was trying to find control in my life, right? And so I was
Yeah.
looking at food, nothing else. There was no predictability, and so I really struggled. And then that anxiety and depression, I learned I had to manage it with something. And so I went the route of alcohol, drugs. I actually got kicked out of my parents' house before I was even out of high school because my
Wow.
behavior got so out of control. Luckily, I had a great base. I have a great family. And so even though I was struggling, I was able to continue. I went to college. I found the dance community. I found a modern company there that I joined. And I found some friends who later took me to Los Angeles to said, you need to do this. You need to dance. Like, are you kidding? You're not going to do this? So I moved to Los Angeles. And fortunately, even though I was kind of, still using my old tools, alcohol and everything else, I met my husband, and he kind of changed my life and asked me to look for better for myself. He said, you're in pain. You're doing all the right things. You're working as a celebrity fitness trainer. From the outside, it looks great. But when I get to know you and I see the way you're suffering, We just have to do something. And so that's when he got online and we looked at options, like holistic options back in like 2010. And he found the
Wow.
paleo diet and just a few people talking about it,
Mhm.
probably like Rob Wolf, Mark Sisson, maybe you,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Wahls.
I was talking in 2011. That's early.
Yeah. And so we decided to try it. And after 30 days, my digestive symptoms were pretty much gone. And I noticed I started to make these connections between what I was eating and the way I was feeling, which was novel at that time for me. And, but so empowering that I had this amazing job. I had to quit it and went back to school to study nutrition so I could teach other people to use food as medicine. So
In my tribe, pay attention to that. We've had so many people in my tribe have their healing journey inspire them to pivot their profession to something that speaks to their heart in a much more meaningful way. And so I'm curious, Autumn, do you feel any differently about your life, your meaning and your purpose now than you did as a dancer, which I'm sure you also loved?
oh, absolutely. And yeah, I dance every day. I've already done my dancing. And so it is such a big part of my life. And I often get people reaching out like, you went on tour with Jennifer Lopez. Like, why are you selling beef sticks? And it's like, well, that was the message I needed to hear. I didn't need to learn how to be more fit. I was always fit. I
Yeah,
wasn't always well. And that, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
being able to give people that piece is so rewarding for me. So yeah, although I love both, this is the career that I was supposed to have. I fully believe that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, now let's sort of pivot to what we're going to here to talk about mushrooms. I'm very excited about mushrooms. You're excited about mushrooms. So let me tell you what made you so fired up about mushrooms.
Well, yeah, as I progressed on my journey and I got more education, they were just our products are just kind of the things I needed and I thought my family needed. And so I did a little genetic test one day and I found out that I have both genes for Alzheimer's. And so I became really, really
Oh,
interested in, yeah, and empowered by, okay, well, what can I do in order to
yes.
avoid this fate? And medicinal mushrooms were on my radar pretty early. I met a really cool guy who's been cultivating them since the 1970s, and he kind of taught me the ropes. And when I tried them, it was a really noticeable difference for me in terms of cordyceps and its energy production. I now use it as a pre-workout because there's so many, it's just invigorating. And then lion's mane, which I'm sure we'll talk about. There's a lot of really cool evidence around lion's mane and
Well,
it's
let's explain to my tribe uh, cordyceps and lion's mane. What have you found out?
okay, so cordyceps is this really cool, kind of crazy medicinal mushroom that actually grows. Well, when caterpillars hibernate in the winter, this mushroom actually goes in and grows on them and kind of like consumes them, grows out of them. That's traditionally, right? They've learned how to harvest it in a way that doesn't kill insects these days. But what they've found is that cordyceps actually able to help you produce more ATP, so the energy currency of our body. And so it's very invigorating. Athletes use it all the time. Like I said, I use it as a pre-workout. It just helps us have more energy. And when we have more energy, we feel better. They also call it Cordyceps because it has a
Woo!
lot. I know we just took a turn. But because it helps with the libido and even with fertility, there's a lot of really great research around cordyceps. It also has some really cool anti-inflammatory properties
Mhm.
because of one of its compounds called cordycepin. And so I eat it. I mean, every single day I'm taking cordyceps. And then lion's mane, I think will be particularly
Yeah.
interesting to your audience because they call it like the mountain man mushroom or the pom pom mushroom because it has this beautiful, like, it looks like a lion's mane when it
Yeah.
grows. And traditionally, it's used for like soothing the digestive tract, and it has some really cool gut properties, which we know it is relevant to the brain. And also, it helps to disrupt biofilms. Some interesting research around that. But most notably, it's been found there's two compounds in it, hericenones and iranocines, that have been shown to cross the blood-brain barrier and actually exert neuroprotective effects. So it's been shown,
It
yeah.
stimulates the growth of brain-derived neurotrophic factors, and we've done that in multiple studies now. So very exciting. Keep going, Autumn.
Yeah, and nerve growth factor, BDNF. And then there was a really interesting 2001 study that I looked up, and at least in vitro, like in the petri dish, it was able to help promote myelination the
Mhm.
myelin around nerves, which I know that your audience would really, really appreciate. And again, in mice, it was a mice trial, but still, or I'm sorry, in vitro, but it'll be interesting to see what some of the evidence says. Now, there was a really cool human clinical trial back in 2009 where they gave participants, one group, 250 milligrams, 4 capsules of that, 3 times every day. So essentially like 3 grams of lion's mane. And then they pitted that against the placebo. And they noticed significant improvement in cognitive function at 8 weeks, at 16 weeks. And it seems the longer they took them, the more they got better. And then the most interesting part was the results stopped when they stopped taking them. So there's been other trials too on menopausal women and self-reported measures of anxiety and irritability and sleeplessness. But there's actually a lot more evidence, I think, than most people realize around these mushrooms, mostly coming out of Asia.
But let's talk a bit about mushrooms. So mushroom powders are lots of mushroom powders. And then there's mushroom extract in capsules and mushroom extract in little liquid vials. What do you have for my tribe about these powders that we can buy, the extract capsules, and mycelium, fruiting body? Um,
Yeah.
how should people discern what is the best product here?
Okay, that's very interesting. And so, in order to kind of get into that, I'm just going to break down the life cycle of a mushroom. So, first, it starts as a spore and it germinates, and these little hyphae grow out. They're like little tube like structures. Stage two is the mycelium. It's where these like hyphae kind of fuse together and they become a network, like a root system. And then stage three is the fruiting body, right? So, traditionally, most of the use was around this mushroom, the actual mushroom in the fruiting body, which is stage three. A lot of the research has been done around that part too. But because the cultivation of medicinal mushrooms is expensive, time intensive, what a lot of growers and cultivators do now is grow the mycelium on a grain. And then that's just kind of that becomes the product rather than using the fruiting body. So
So
that helped.
hang on. So when they're talking about a powder, many of these powders, it's the mycelium and the grain that's been grown and all ground up together,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And you
So
cannot separate it out. Um, and they've done a lot of testing around that actually to see. Now, most manufacturers will tout, okay, we have high levels of polysaccharides, right? Which these are these long chain sugars, essentially. Beta glucans are the most famous ones,
mhm.
and most mushrooms are famous for having a lot of beta glucans. But what most people don't know is these starches, the grain that they're grown on, the mushrooms, will contain another type of polysaccharide called an alpha glucan. And so people have actually gone in and taken
Mm.
products and tested them and saw like, okay, well, what is the actual percentage of beta versus alpha glucan? And it's interesting because the mushrooms, the fruiting bodies generally have about less than 5% alpha glucans. Okay. But these products on the market, a lot of them are having mostly alpha glucans, like 30 to 80% alpha glucans because of what they're grown on. Traditionally, a lot of times rice or oats or sorghum, but also because of fillers. One test actually showed that some of the fillers made up like 30%, and that can be like dextrin and maltodextrin, a lot of times derived from corn. So essentially, those bioactive compounds like the beta glucans are watered down in a lot of these products, unfortunately, which is why you want to look for mushroom powders that actually standardize for their beta glucan content rather than their polysaccharide content.
And does it matter if it's mycelium or fruiting body? What's your opinion on that?
Yes, see, that is a hotly debated topic. But as I said, traditionally, the research was done around the fruiting body. And I think that there are benefits for mycelium. But what's important to understand is most mycelium and like the research around it is where the mycelium is grown in sterile tanks of water and they receive nutrients, right? And so
Mhm.
at the end of that process, then the mycelium is able to be separated from that. But how it's made today is on grain, like I said, it is not separated. And so the research doesn't necessarily cross over all the time. I'm not here to say that there's no benefits to mycelium, but I don't think that you can necessarily assume you're going to get the same benefits.
And the research is primarily done on fruiting body. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of exciting research on fruiting body. And there's also interesting research just on consumption, eating mushrooms as a daily part of your diet. There's
Yeah.
not a lot of research about grain-based mycelium products. Now, back to you, Autumn.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, like it's really interesting. You can do this little test at home for like $5. Have you heard about the iodine starch test?
Oh, no, oh, no. Let's hear that.
I want to tell you about it because I actually did it yesterday. And so you take your supplement or whatever mushroom products you're getting, and you put about a gram of it into a test tube or into just a glass, and then you add 3 tablespoons of warm water, and you just mix it together. And then you take like tinctured iodine, and you just put like 10 drops in there. Now, if that becomes a purple or a black color, that signals the presence of a lot of starch. And if it doesn't, you know that, okay, this product isn't primarily starch. And I know like for the paleo community, for your community, just having a lot of starch in there isn't a great thing. And so I like
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
yeah, I did that. And it was funny because I did 5 products yesterday, and our product was the only one that didn't change at all. And the other ones did change to varying degrees. So it's interesting.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, so I have them here. You have them?
Yes.
Some neuro effect. So what's all in the neuro effect? And why did you design it the way you did? Because it's got more than cordyceps and more than lion's mane.
Totally. Okay. So I designed it again, like I do a lot of my products for the brain. And so we did a lot of lion's mane, right? So we have a gram of lion's mane in the product. And then also secondarily, because I loved cordyceps and I love the way that it made me feel, we have 500 milligrams of cordyceps in there. We also have reishi, which is the mushroom of immortality and really, really well known for its calming effects. It has some really interesting immunomodulatory effects. It kind of downregulates inflammatory proteins, and it just has a lot of benefits. So we knew we needed reishi in there. We also have something called tremella, which is an interesting mushroom. It's used mostly in the beauty industry, but it also has some really interesting brain benefits for at least in animal models for learning and cognition. And then we have some traditionally used mushrooms, shiitake and maitake as well, really well studied for like immunomodulatory effects in cancer therapy as well. And turkey tail, which is such a potent immunomodulator, they actually turned it into medicine in Asia. They have like PSK and PKP, I believe those are extracts of turkey tail that are used for cancer therapy. So we added all of those ingredients, and then we added a little bit of coffee bean extract, which is actually shown in one trial to improve the production of BDNF, as you mentioned, which is like the brain fertilizer, by 143%. And so that's all we did. We put these organic mushrooms that have actually been standardized and derived from the fruiting bodies with this water extraction process, which actually breaks down the chitin or the cell walls so that they're bioavailable, added in the neuro effect, and which is the coffee bean extract. And we just created basically a compound or like a complex that we call neuro effect because it was designed with the brain in mind. But there's so many other awesome benefits for your immune system. Like I said, even like we now know the link between your cardiometabolic health and your brain health. And so it has a lot of effects on your metabolism and anti-inflammatory, anti-obesity, and just on and on. So yeah, that's what we created.
Yep, phenomenal product. I use this. I like it a lot. So yes, and so tell us more about getting that product. This is a new offering for your tribe and for my tribe.
Yeah.
So when is this going out, and when will it be available?
Yeah, you can order it right now, Terry. And then we're going to
Okay.
give 10% off for your tribe as long as they order it through you and for as long as they order it for you because
Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. And so, sometimes it's so many capsules a day. So how many capsules are we talking about to get all these great mushrooms?
yeah. So it's just 4 capsules a day. Okay. And you can, when it comes to mushrooms, they don't really see a benefit to any specific time. And so you can take 2 in the morning, you can take 2 at night, you can split up the dose if you have to, or I take mine first thing in the morning too. So
And do you take them on empty stomach food? Does that seem to make any difference?
it doesn't really, I just, as long as people take them, I don't want to, they seem to have benefits no matter if it's with food or without food. So just
Okay,
fit it into
excellent,
your life is the moral of the story.
excellent, excellent. Well, I am so glad that you had this transformation, and it's sort of inconvenient that you had to go through your health challenge. It's inconvenient I had to go through my health challenge. On the
Mhm.
other hand, at least for me, I see it was essential. It was essential that I have my health challenges, so I would be motivated to learn. And now I have a much more meaningful life, and probably a much more impactful life. Because had I just been a professor of medicine, you have maybe a couple thousand patients that you see in your practice, and maybe many tens of thousands over your lifetime. But because of my uh, personal healing journey, I've impacted now millions of people. And so it's much more impactful now that I've managed to have this inconvenience of my healing journey, but it transformed me in wonderful ways. So, Autumn, while I'm sure it's inconvenient that you had to have your health challenge, I see you also impacting literally millions of people in very favorable ways. So,
Well, thank you, Dr. Walls. That means a lot, especially coming from you. And yeah, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm really glad that I had to suffer if it can help other people feel better sooner than I did. So thank you.
well, you're dancing. I want to throw out another idea for you to think about,
Yeah.
given your passion for dancing. Dancing as a neurorehabilitation is a growing interest in the research field. And I know there are a number of dance studios that have created neurorehabilitation dance classes for
Mm,
people with Parkinson's and neurologic disorders. So,
I love that idea. I love that idea because I
I
can tell.
want I invite you to think about that. I think that could be another ancillary career, if that would be of interest to you.
I love that suggestion because, like you said, I know I'm a different person when I'm able to dance, and if I could combine the products with the dancing, and I'm
Oh
actually
my
working with,
gosh,
yeah, it could be amazing. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I think I'll look into that. I'm doing my doctorate right now, and so maybe we can do something like that for the dissertation.
that would be very cool. What are you getting your doctorate in?
Actually, holistic nutrition.
Whoa, superb.
Yes.
So the more comprehensively we integrate our diet and lifestyle into meaningful, joyful life, the better for our clients and the better for ourselves.
Mm.
So, Autumn, I guess we should wrap this up. This has just been wonderful. One more time, let's hold up the neuro effects. We both love them, and we'll have a link for you so you guys can check this out and order those neuro effects.
Thank you, Dr. Walls.
Live long and prosper.